honor to nominate Ohio Senator J.D. Vance for the office of Vice President of the United States of America.
It's day 2 of the Republican convention, and we continue our coverage right here on CNN News 18. I'm now joined by Rachel Dean Wilson. She's with the German Marshall Fund. She studies all things politics, political analysis. She's also been with the late Senator John McCain as his communications director and also an advisor to the 2016 re-election campaign of McCain. Thanks so much, Rachel, for joining us here.
Thanks for having me.
Rachel, my first question, let's start with J.D. Vance. I'm going to read out some of the things that he said 8 years ago about Donald Trump. I find him reprehensible. I am a never Trump guy. He's America's Hitler. Remind us how we got from those venomous critical statements to where we are today, where he's Trump's running mate.
Yeah, it's been a kind of rapid shift for J.D. Vance and a rapid rise within the Republican Party. So he really first came onto the scene in 2016 with the publication of his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, and that looked at his own family. He grew up in a poor family in Ohio, kind of a broken home by his own telling and admission, and was raised by his grandmother. And so he tells the story of his family, and through that storytelling tries to get at why, tell a little more insight into the appeal of Donald Trump. And it became very popular in 2016 when people were scrambling to figure out what was happening in the country. And so that's kind of start there, and then fast forward a bit, and with his 2022 Senate campaign, we saw a change of tone in how we were talking about Trump. I think there were many things at play. I was reading a little bit of his some of the interviews with Vance, and by his own telling, I think it was that he felt like the elites were missing the point, and that he was trying to say that there are these kind of populist problems that are real problems. And he wasn't really getting anywhere now that he was a part of these kind of elite discussions as of looking at venture capital and some other jobs in between that time.
But wouldn't Trump represent that elite that he's trying to get away from?
I mean, and not according to them. It was really kind of the idea that Trump was, and again, I'm paraphrasing him, but the idea that Trump was trying to do politics differently.
What's in it for Trump? Why pick Vance? How is Vance going to get him to the White House?
Yeah, there are several things. One, if you're just looking straight politics at the map, there's a Rust Belt appeal here. So you've seen reports today that they're going to just park him in Pennsylvania for the next few months until the election. They think that his personal story and appeal really resonates in that part of the country, with some trips over to Wisconsin and Michigan. But so that's one appeal. I think there is a youth appeal as well. He's 39. He has a young family, and he's about half Trump's age. And so it does bring a different vigor into the party. Now, what's interesting as we are, you've seen signs of the Trump campaign moderating, and this is not a moderate pick. This is really a doubling down of his America First policy and that more populist ideology in the Republican Party. And so if you, almost any other candidate would have been a more moderating pick, this is definitely not.
Talking about how Trump's been referring to, ever since the assassination, Trump has been talking about, looking at being a unifying force, right? Do you see Vance as being that unifying element? Because I'm referring really to his tweet, many other things, but most recently his tweet about Joe Biden soon after the assassination attempt, where he called Biden a fascist. He kind of directly blamed Biden for the attack on Trump. That doesn't really seem like a unifying figure that Trump has been talking about in terms of that unifying theme.
We'll have to wait and see. Like so much of this, the horrific shooting at that Pennsylvania rally it is just, we haven't seen an assassination attempt like that in the United States since Reagan in 1981. That is a significant moment in American history, and it must be a significant personal moment as well for Trump. I think you saw that almost, he is a master showman, so I will give that to him, but you saw it last night or on Monday night in the convention when he came in, and even his demeanor seemed somewhat changed. So we'll have to wait to see if that means anything, and how long that lasts. We've also seen reporting that he's rewritten parts of his speech for Thursday that Trump has to be more unifying. So it's kind of a wait and see approach to how unifying he can be going forward. There's definitely a moment and an opportunity for that, and let's see if he can take it.
So Vance has had some extreme views on immigration and abortion. He's been quite vocal about those things. Some might even say that he is more far-right than Trump himself. Just wondering how this will play on those undecided voters, people who were perhaps leaning towards Trump. Are they now going to be put off by the pick with Vance now as running mate?
Potentially, but we'll have to see how he presents himself in this campaign. As I mentioned, he has a very short political career. He was elected to the Senate in 2022, and that is not he's made waves. There is a record, but it's not a lot of time, and most people don't know who he is, and we forget that in Washington D.C. a lot. So I think this week he has an opportunity to introduce himself to the American people. And we'll see what that introduction looks like.
So Wednesday he gets an opportunity to take to the podium. He's going to make his speech. What are you looking for when you hear him?
Yeah, I really am looking forward, like, who is showing up? Who are we presenting to the American people? I think it's a no-brainer for them to be very heavy on his bio. He has a very compelling bio. Again, growing up poor, kind of an American, the American dream story, truly. And so leaning in heavily to that, but how much are we seeing the American First policies in there? How much are we leaning into populism? How do we balance? How do they balance all of those competing factors? And I think when you're really looking at this, and it is those, I think, post-debate where there are real questions around Biden's age and capabilities. And then with an assassination attempt, there are more Trump-curious voters than there have been.
So his speech somewhat being a precursor to what we're going to hear from Trump perhaps on Thursday?
Perhaps, or a complement to what you're going to hear on Thursday. But I definitely think for the two of them to be completely opposite in tone, I think would be off. So I think you will get some tonal nods on Wednesday night into what we're going to hear from, or how we're going to hear it from Trump.
Going back to Trump's call for unity, which you were talking about, you talked about how Trump was visibly very different. You've been tracking the Republican convention, so do you think that tone of unity has been reflected through the various speakers that we've seen over the past few days, or no?
From what I've seen, it is, conventions are red meat. Okay, so you go and you are speaking to your base a lot of the programming, and then there are those primetime hours where you're introducing yourself to the American people. So it's a little bit of both. But so I think Monday night we're totally open to that. They did pretty. We're in bounds for unity.
None of this was a time where the assassination never took place. So would it be a very different?
I think it might have been. I think it might have been a different opening night.
So you're seeing that difference?
I think it definitely would have been a different opening night. The idea that the first time you see Trump post-assassination attempt is on the convention floor, and there's kind of that moment. From folks that are there, you're hearing I'm hearing that it's a real buoyed atmosphere, and a real sense that they're on the right track there.
It's been a crazy week here for American politics. Let's talk about Biden. It seems like he's gotten a little bit of reprieve, a little bit of that pressure. The spotlight has been on him to step aside. Is that going to mount again? How is that going to go?
This is going to be really interesting to watch. The pressure is off of him because the scrutiny is so much more on how did this assassination attempt happen, Trump's VP pick, the Republican National Convention this week. So the conversation has shifted, but I don't think concerns have gone away. I think his team will attempt to run out the clock, and so when they get to Chicago in August, that he is the nominee, and going through to November, I potentially see it as he stays the nominee, but is unable to really mount, a real strong campaign against Trump if he can't really get Democrats back on board. And you've seen a lot of concerns with it.
Let's talk about the big if. If he does step aside, what do you think of Kamala Harris? Do you think she is the one, she could be that formidable force that can take on Trump and win the White House?
I think she's the obvious solution for them. Set up as far as being his VP to more easily take over the funds that are for the Biden-Harris campaign. That she's kind of ready to go, has the campaign staff, has been on the campaign trail in this role. So that, and the polling has her up slightly from Biden. So, and even one poll I saw was ahead of any other potential Democratic candidate. So I think she's the strongest candidate they have to put up in this short amount of time. But we'll see if that happens.
Thanks very much. That's Rachel Dean Wilson joining us here on CNN News 18. We'll continue our coverage on the Republican convention. Stay tuned.